So the Paschal mystery, right? The Paschal mystery is made up of four things: his suffering, the suffering and crucifixion, the passion, if you want, the death, the resurrection, and the ascension. And you really can't pull them apart. It's one reality, this Paschal mystery. It's all happening, all this reality at once. But if you want to kind of try to simplify it, it really does come down to just dying and rising, dying and rising. And there's a cyclical nature to that we see throughout our lives. We see it right now in spring, right? I always marvel at parts of the world that don't experience four seasons. They don't get that experience of to see things die and then to rise again, the budding of the spring. There's the cyclical nature of that dying and rising, and it just keeps showing up. But what's funny is the ways in which we as humans miss this entirely, that it shows up over and over again. And I ran across the funny example that always makes me just want to smash my head against a brick wall. Maybe you can relate. And that's people that don't realize things that are cyclical. And this is the example that really drives me crazy. Napoleon once was quoted to have said, and he meant this as the ultimate insult to someone, right? That he would say, "This man is not a student of history." And he meant that as an insult, that you hadn't bothered to realize on some level the cyclical nature of things, how often we do things over and over again the same way. And there's a man named, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Paul, I believe it's Ferry, F-R-A-I-R-I-E. And he wrote a book about this, right? And maybe you can relate to this. Occasionally, maybe you're at the coffee shop or something and you hear someone make this kind of statement. Kids today, one of two things follows that. They don't know how good they got it. They're spoiled. Or, that's one version, or they have no respect. Kids today have no respect. And what Paul Ferry did was he just went back through newspapers, back to American newspapers to see when is the first time somebody in writing said, kids today are spoiled. Well, let's start with respect because it's older. 1877 was the first time that was written down. So when people say it to me, I'm like, this isn't new. People have been talking about disrespectful kids forever. Stop buying into the cynicism. It really does tick me off. We're drinking the poison when we do that stuff. By the way, the kids don't know how good they have it, 1895. So we at least waited a few years to go into that well. Here's another one. Nobody wants to work anymore. Sound recently familiar? Nobody wants to work anymore. 1895 as well. 1895, people started complaining about how nobody wants to work. It just drives me batty because it's like we've all got a mug of poison and just drinking it up. Drink up, Johnny. Isn't it delicious? It's the death of us. It's the opposite of resurrection. It's absolutely not what we should be testifying to. Why would anyone else believe resurrection if we don't testify it? We have to testify to it. We can't be testifying to cynicism, anxiety, and fear. That's what the world is selling. That's what the world has always been selling. And I'm not here to rail against the world. Again, that drives me crazy too. Let the world be the world. We're supposed to be different. And we should be engaging that world, not complaining about that world, not name-calling that world, but really trying to pull it in. To me, this all comes back to something Jesus says right at the beginning of the Gospel of John, right in the first chapter. He's walking and two of John's apostles or disciples are following behind him. And he kind of turns around. Do you remember this story? And he says, "What are you looking for?" We just had our Jamaica mission, and we used this as a reflection one night. After several days of working with people who are very different from us, the question raising, what are you looking for? And I honestly don't know. When I picture that in my mind's eye, if I was following behind Jesus and he just spun around and caught me stalking him to say, what are you looking for? And I forget the scholar who pointed out, in some way, the rest of the Gospel of John are responses to that question. I'm looking for bread. I'm hungry. I am the bread of life. He responds. I'm looking for life. I'm looking for life. I am the way. I'm looking to understand what is true. I am the truth. I'm looking for an abundance of life. I don't want to just eke it out. I want to have life and life to the full, as Jesus said in John 10. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm looking for hope. I'm looking for hope that this isn't it, that this life isn't all there is. And he says, I am the resurrection. And over and over and over again, he provides the response to the questions. And so I return to us, brothers and sisters. What are we looking for? Where is our gaze? Where is our eyes? What are we drawn to? Are we drawn to the glass half empty? Are we drawn to what divides us? Or are we drawn to what unites us? Does this sound familiar? We've never been more divided than any time. That's not true. Read some real polling. The reality is many of us agree on many things, but we're listening to the false prophets. We're letting people drive the wedge on us. And this action of the cross just waits in silence for us to testify to it. His action of an empty tomb waits for us to testify to it. We're letting others lead us to a place that is not resurrection. It is not light. It is not life. And it is not true. So what are we looking for? That is a tough, tough question. And when we stand in, whether we stand in front of the cross or we stand in front of the empty tomb, the darkness or the light of those moments, where is our gaze drawn to? Are we building coalitions or are we assembling a mob? Are we trying to find the commonality? Are we trying to respond to Jesus saying that they would be one, Father, as you and I are one? Or are we just picking up teams, us versus them, good guys against the bad guys? He died for all, and he rose for all. And he said, the rain falls on the good and the evil the same. This is tough stuff. This resurrection is a beautiful and powerful thing. The gospel from last night for the vigil, I love it. It's the two Marys, and they're running back, and it says that they were fearful and overjoyed. They were fearful and overjoyed. On some level, they knew the excitement of what it meant that he had conquered death, and it also scared the burp out of them. Because what was it going to mean for them? Oh my gosh, we follow this guy. Is it going to mean the same for us? Here we are on a bright sunny day with more daylight in the sky every day than the day before it. We are moving into light. And the one who died and rose for us is asking us today here at St. John the 23rd, what are you looking for? And whatever the answer to that question is, or whatever our question that we kind of give back in response to his question, the answer will always be, I am. I am, Jesus says. The way, the truth, the life, the bread of life, the resurrection, all of it. And he's trying to lead us somewhere. As individuals, sure. As a community, yes. That we would all be one. So whether we want to sit around and complain about how disrespectful kids are, or we want to talk about how divided we are, and some of that is true. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna up here. But I am trying to say that where you fix your gaze makes a difference. My sister Karen was quite the athlete. She had this poster in her bedroom that always said, obstacles are what you see when you take your eye off the prize. And I think about that for us. Where is our gaze? Is it on what might make us stumble? Or is it on the way, the truth, and the life? I got so excited thinking about this morning that I said, I got to do something different. And so I literally parted my hair the other side. Did anyone notice? It's driving me crazy. I'm just going to fix it. But I literally was like, do something different. Do something different. I'm wearing my blue clerical shirt, which I usually save for pep rallies. I'm wearing brown pants, and I got my Easter socks on. I wanted to show something different in this moment, because it is a different moment. As I said at the beginning, this isn't just a historical event in time. It's happening right now for us. What are you looking for? May God be praised.